He's an amazing activist. He knows a lot of information about the industry, but what's most important is that he cares about his people. And he's going to share his gift, his work, his talent, his knowledge with us today. We're so grateful and appreciative to have you here. We are so blessed. Give it up for Jasiri X.
I was invited to St. Louis by Talib Kweli. He organized a concert to raise money for Michael Brown's family, and it was on the day, the anniversary of Michael Brown's death, August 9th. You know, I get to the venue. It's a venue called Fubar in St. Louis. It's, you know, capacity immediately. You know what I'm saying? It's a free show. It's a fourth free show Talib Kweli has done in St. Louis as his way of giving back to that community because of what they experienced. So, and you know, the lineup is myself. I was really the first rap act to hit the stage, and by the time, you know, I get out there, it's 8:30, and it was already at capacity. It was already no one can get in. The energy was crazy. You know, the energy and the vibe the crowd giving me was like real electric, you know, so I'm really on this high because of how powerful this show is. And Tori from Hands Up United is hosting it, as long as this sister named Kay from the Organization of Black Struggle was there. I mean, it was just a lot of, you know, activists and good people. And then, of course, you know, after me, here come World Technique, and my man Tep Poe was there. Of course, he smashes it down. He's jumping in the crowd, and Pharoah Monch, of course, Talib Kweli. He has Bun B with him. He's bringing up M1 from Dead Press, and then Common, you know what I'm saying, is on the bill to close the show, to highlight it. And so I'm not only just blessed to be a performer, but I'm blessed to like watch it all take place and watch it unravel and unfold. And so the night is like really high because it's like we're having this great success. A lot of money is raised for Michael Brown's family, and be a part of that real positive energy that was there. And then we find out that another unarmed teenager was shot by this Ferguson police officer a year later on the same day. I mean, close enough distance I can go over there. He's shot in Ferguson, right around the corner from where Michael Brown is shot. So I can't just come to St. Louis and rap about it. Immediately after the show, you know, we hopped in a ride and we wanted to go over to Ferguson where this was happening. We heard that there were people over there that were protesting. The police was already telling them to leave, was already hitting them with tear gas. So I wanted to go. Right as we turned the corner, the police was already setting up a roadblock. We couldn't get in. And I'm like, man, you know, it's like, you know, what do we do now?
You come at us with guns and tasers and pepper spray and tanks and wooden pellets and rubber bullets, but we come at you with weapons that are not carnal, that are mighty through God for the pulling down of strongholds. And we declare that the stronghold of white supremacy, the stronghold of racism, the stronghold of oppression is coming down in the name of the living God.
You know, all these people, we were all locked in arms, and I was locked in arms with his sister. And she turned and looked at me, and she said, are you gonna get arrested today? And I was like, I paused, you know, when she asked me that. She said, because if you're on the front line, this is a line for people that's gonna get arrested. You know how you try to like front, like, man, I'll get arrested? Like what? What you trying to say? But then, you know, I was like in my own mind, like, I don't really want to go to get arrested, but I mean, so I said to myself, I said, well, if they jump over this barrier, I'm gonna jump over this barrier. You know what I'm saying? If they're gonna get arrested today, then I'm gonna get arrested with my people. And when I saw them go, I said I'm gonna go. You know, police officer put us in the zip cuffs, and took us away. And so, we went inside, and then we went into this processing area. Because we got arrested with a lot of religious people, they were like singing the gospel hymns. So they were singing gospel music, and I don't think they busted out the "We Shall Overcome," but it was some stuff like that. And I just remember Rahel was behind me, and she said, like, I don't really need to hear like the gospel music right now. I need to hear you spit something revolutionary. So Jasiri, spit something. And I just went into, they say, Jasiri X, you preach too much. I'm like, black people, we speak too much. A black president, but he doesn't speak for us. Another black body lynch is not unique to us. Strange fruit, but now they cock it, aim, shoot, yeah. Strange fruit, but now they cock it, aim, shoot, yeah. Strange fruit, but now they cock it, aim, shoot, yeah. The end result is just another slain youth, yeah. Renisha McBride, she got a name too. And Jonathan Farrell, he got a name too. Sandra Bland, she got a name too. Sam Du Bois, he got a name too. I pray to God that will never name you. I said, that's for you black officers, because when you take that uniform off, you just like me. And so I said, what's the charge? He said, obstruction. I said, I'm not obstructing justice. I said, charge me with assisting justice. And then I asked, I said, well, we have a federal holiday celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King, who basically exposed injustices through civil disobedience. How can we be charged by the federal government for the same thing to honor Dr. Martin Luther King for? And to say lastly that I didn't do anything special by getting arrested, nor did I do anything that, these Ferguson citizens that have been constantly harassed by the police had to go through. I didn't go through anything that they went through. Thankfully, I made it out alive. Kimberly King, who got arrested in St. Louis County, didn't make it out alive. The question is, what else more can we do to get justice? Because if they're not going to give us justice, then we have to be prepared to answer that, or else not with words, but with some real actions.
I'm Jasiri X, man, live from St. Louis, and it's justice or else, man.
Yeah.
Wherever the else is, it's up to you to decide, man. How far are you willing to go for your people?
Put them in inferior schools. Put them in.
Jasiri X, you preach too much. I'm like, black people, we asleep too much. A black president, but he didn't speak for us. Another black body lynch is not unique to us. Meanwhile, Kanye's rocking Confederate flag. Jay-Z and Barney's going half one. Sweaters and bags, it's not their fault, it's ours. Are we measuring swag? They getting money, get money. What's better than cash forever and last? Riding in Berettas and Jag, but don't crash. If you do any help, don't ask. Because all Renisha got was a shotgun blast, just for knocking on the door, left, riding on her floor, half her face gone, but no one was locked up like Akon. Black light, comes with no insurance like State Farm. Race wrong, black people, better put your brakes on. End up on that strange porch, end up as a stained corpse, different city, same sport. It's not an accident when you hit the witness you aim for. Bullets in the face tour, victim of a race war, make a brother hate more, show up at that same door, let that 38 roar. What will be my fate, Lord? Death from an officer who I ran to thinking to help people would offer up 10 shots to the chest, struts, now they chalking up. Another black man looking fresh in that coffin all. Being to my ribs cracked, would have been a gym mat. Blood on my kicks match. Police say I did that. No crime, the kid's black, case closed, casket shut, but take his organs, fill it with newspaper and patch him up. Now tell me if that BS is matching up. I know we just want to see her twerk it then back it up. But that's what happens when we make our rappers leaders. And our most intelligent just want to be on TV featured. And they give reality TV shows to preachers. And we think activism is Facebooking and tweeting. 12 years a slave, we still fighting for freedom. Just look at the headline, seeing is believing. Strange fruit, but now they cock it, aim, shoot, yeah. Strange fruit, but now they cock it, aim, shoot, yeah. Strange fruit, but now they cock it, aim, shoot, yeah. The end result is just another slain youth, yeah. Renisha McBride, she got a name too. Jonathan Farrell, got a name too. Kendrick Johnson, he got a name too. Ayana Jones, she got a name too. Sandra Bland, she got a name too. Corin Gaines, she got a name too. Alton Sterling, he got a name too. Philando Castile, he got a name too. Oscar Grant, he got a name too. Trayvon Martin, he got a name too. Michael Brown, he got a name too. Antoine Rose, he got a name too. I pray to God that will never name you. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing today? It's an honor to be here. I thank Umoja. I thank San Diego City College for inviting me. Yeah. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Jasiri X. Jasiri is my given name. Jasiri Rwande. Jasiri Swahili. It means brave warrior. I'm black. Just, putting it out there. I know sometimes people look at me and might not be sure. Both my parents are black. No disrespect to biracial. Both my parents are black. I'm just light-skinned. I'm a light-skinned black person. And to say that, I'm originally from the South Side of Chicago. I'm currently based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm somebody that kind of believes, like James Baldwin, that I have a responsibility as an artist. I feel like as a young black man in America, I don't have the luxury to make art for art's sake. I feel like I have to make art that's reflective of the real issues that's happening in my community. For those that don't know, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has the poorest inner city black community in the country. Pittsburgh is #1, then Cleveland and Detroit. So I come representing, a community, but Pittsburgh was also called the most livable city in America. So at the same time, one group said this is the most livable place, we're in poverty, you know what I'm saying? So I just feel like as an artist, I have a responsibility to speak on it. I kind of broke out in 2006. I don't know if y'all remember, it used to be like a social media site called MySpace. Y'all remember MySpace? So I broke out on MySpace in 2006. It was an incident in a place in Louisiana called Gina. And at this high school in Gina, Louisiana, Gina's, have you ever heard the term the wrong side of the tracks? It came from, this is how they segregated communities in the South. And so Gina, Louisiana in 2006 was still a segregated community where on one side of the tracks was poor black people, on the other side was more affluent white people. At the high school in Gina, the unwritten rule was only white students could sit under the tree in front of the school. Black students sat under the tree and white students hung nooses from the tree. They were suspended, but it caused a lot of racial tension in the town. So a black student was jumped at an off-campus party by white students. The next day, his friends seen one of the guys that jumped him in school. They jumped that guy, but instead of being suspended, they were charged with attempted murder. Even though the student that they beat up didn't even spend the night in the hospital. And one of the young men that participated in that fight got 10 years in prison. His name was Michael Bell. And so this is one of the first times people use sites like MySpace, they use YouTube to kind of spread the information about what was happening in a small town in Gina. I did a song called Free to Gina 6. I sent it to a hip hop blog called All Hip Hop. Somebody sent it to a radio host named Michael Bazin, who had a syndicated radio show all across the country. He played it. It ended up being played, all over the country. I ended up going to Gina, Louisiana with about 50,000 other, mostly college to high school age black people. We were able to get the charges dropped against the Gina 6. Michael Bell was released from prison. He just completed law school. And so it was a victory. And what I learned, I had stopped rapping at that time because I was told over and over again, people don't want to hear socially conscious music. And it was I was lied to. I did this song and it was shared all over the country. And so that kind of had me become an artist that does socially conscious music. And so that's a little bit about me. And I kind of want to get into, just about that arrest, that video took place in 2015. That was a year after Michael Brown's death. I got arrested with 62 people that day. We ended up getting the charges dropped. One of the things, they wanted us to pay a fine. I definitely wasn't going to pay anything because I think even, some folks look at civil disobedience and getting arrested as a part of the movement, but sometimes you end up paying into the very system that's oppressing you. And so I knew I wasn't going to pay a fine, and they ended up dropping the charges. But one of the things they did do is they took everybody's there's DNA, which I thought was interesting. You know what I'm saying? I was arrested with a lot of high-profile activists and speakers, and so everybody's DNA got taken that day in St. Louis. So I just want to get right into it. I don't know if y'all saw this. This was the governor of Virginia, the current governor of Virginia came out. And this was his yearbook photo in the 80s. And I think it's interesting when you look at a picture, you gotta try to figure out which one is more racist. Is the blackface or the Ku Klux Klan? I can't really tell, you know what I'm saying? And then he said he wasn't, first he said he was in the picture, then he said he wasn't in the picture, and then he came out and said, oh, I did do blackface in the 80s, I dressed up like Michael Jackson, and then I started to wonder, was Michael still brown in the 80s? I don't know. So then his attorney general also came out. The attorney general of Virginia said he did blackface in the 80s. And then this is the current senator of Virginia. He edited a yearbook that had blackface in the 80s. And then the governor, current leading gubernatorial candidate in Mississippi, he had blackface on his yearbook in the 90s. And this was after the Secretary of State in Florida had to resign because he was in blackface. This was in 2000. And then I guess Gucci was like, hey, there's a lot of blackface going on. Let's make some blackface sweaters. In 2019, Gucci was like, we're gonna make some blackface sweaters. And then this was after Prada had made some like little blackface keychains. And so, yeah, it's Black History Month. I guess happy Black History Month. I just wanna hope y'all, I guess we're feeling the love. The Pew Center did a study actually that said 34% of Americans say blackface in a Halloween costumes, except 1/3 of Americans. Does anybody in here think blackface is acceptable? Hell no. Like blackface, I mean, you know, blackface is acceptable, brown face, yellow face, putting on an indigenous costume and jumping around, none of that's acceptable, you know what I'm saying? But I think it comes down to, but to also understand that blackface is very American. And really the history of blackface was that, you know, black performers weren't acceptable in these white spaces. And so they wanted black culture, but they didn't want black people. And so what they did was they dressed up and mimicked black people, and they put on the, and they did the mannerisms, but they not us, you know what I'm saying? And you know, some people will argue that in 2019, they still want black culture and not black people. We'll get into that. And so I guess also Esquire magazine was like, oh, since it's Black History Month, let's do a story about a 17-year-old white kid and talk about his problems. And you know, what was so interesting about this, you know, what's it like to grow up white, middle class, and male in the era of social media, school shootings, toxic masculinity. A couple things that's interesting about this is one, you know, like on so many levels as a young black man in America is offensive because we really, like, I mean, it's really cases of like Trayvon was just going to the store. Like Trayvon left his house to go to the store to get some Skittles and an iced tea and was murdered on the way home, and that person was given his gun back and let go. You know what I'm saying? Tamir Rice was playing across the street from his house and was murdered by a police officer. You have families being broken up at the border. You know what I'm saying? Folks that's just trying to have a better life for themselves. You know, the highest rate of police brutality is actually amongst indigenous communities. Like, we're living with real issues and real problems as people of color, and it's like, we're gonna cover this, and then it doesn't say, it's not a white boy, it's an American boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is representative, like this is an American boy. But it's a narrative that's happening right now, like there's somehow this attack on white men, which is really interesting, but this is how the media can put forth a narrative, and then you can begin to believe it and buy into this. This is one of the most powerful things I saw on Twitter. Somebody said, imagine the same American boy headline with someone who looked like Trayvon talking about what it's like to have your mother sit down and tell you how to stay alive in your own city during Black History Month. You know, if you're a young black man, young black woman, your parents probably had to sit you down and have the talk with you, right? Just driving a car, you know, you have to prepare to, one, be racially profiled, and two, like when you get racially profiled, be very, very careful because you could get shot and killed, and that would be justified, you know what I'm saying? And this is also, you know, what we saw around the whole Covington Catholic school thing, right? Where it was this idea that like the video that we saw was somehow different, and you know, this young white, well, let's do. He did an interview. The Covington student.
And the Kentucky student at the center of that viral video says he wasn't disrespectful when he appeared to confront Native American veteran Nathan Phillips. He sat down exclusively with today's Savannah Guthrie.
Do you feel that you owe anybody an apology? Do you see your own fault in any way?
As far as standing there, I had every right to do so. My position is that I was not disrespectful to Mr. Phillips.
So, I mean, and you know, we could argue how it started, why it started, whatever, but just that act, and to not have to apologize, and like, just to kind of juxtapose it to like what happens, oftentimes when like a black person is killed by the police or somebody's killed, like, you know, we are asked for forgiveness. We're asked to apologize, you know, in many cases, but, you know, something that we saw where you're in this dude's face, you're smirking, everybody's laughing and joking all around you. It's just really interesting to watch. But then also, I was actually there. I was at the Indigenous Peoples March. I spoke at the march, and you know, beside me, a hip-hop artist, Immortal Technique, that was also featured. He spoke as well, and I'm just really glad that I left before all that took place, because I might not be here today. Might have went down a little bit differently. So, you know, I'm a socially conscious hip-hop artist, so a lot of times when I, you know, I'm like the good rapper, like when they want to like talk about hip-hop and they'll bring me on and they'll be like, Jasiri, you know, you do socially conscious hip-hop, but can you tell us why hip-hop is so misogynistic, and why is it so negative, and why is it so bad, and why does it cover the worst stereotypes? And I always like to start at the top. Does anybody know who this is? This is the most powerful man in rap music. This is Sir Lucien Grange. Lucien Grange is the CEO of Universal Music Group, which is the biggest label in hip-hop. If I said, like, who's the biggest rapper right now? Who would you say, like, is the biggest rapper in hip-hop? I would say probably Drake. You know what I'm saying? Drake would be sales-wise. What would you say?
Cardi B.
No, Cardi B. We're talking about Cardi B. I mean, Cardi B is popping, but I mean, in terms of like longevity, I would say probably Drake right now. You could argue Kendrick. You know, Kendrick. I said Justin Bieber. Stop that, man. So, Drake is on Universal Music Group. You know, he was signed to Cash Money, Young Money. He completed that contract. He signed directly to Universal. Kendrick Lamar is also on Universal Music Group under TDE, along with SZA and Ab Soul and Schoolboy Q and all of those folks. And so, if you don't want to take my word for it, speaking of Kanye, see what Kanye has to say.
I'm standing up and I'm telling you, I am Warhol. I am the #1 most impactful artist of our generation. I am Shakespeare in the flesh. Walt Disney, Nike, Google. Now who's gonna be the Medici family and stand up and let me create more? Or do you want to marginalize me till I'm out of my moment?
Or why don't you empower yourself and don't need them and do it yourself?
How, Sway?
Take a few steps.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway. I've been doing this more than you. You ain't got...
Come on, chill out.
You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers. You ain't been doing the education. You ain't been doing the education. You don't have the answers though, because you're trying to give me advice about something. You ain't got the answers. You ain't spent $13 million of your own money trying to empower yourself.
Yeah, but I spent hundreds of thousands and don't put it out. All I'm asking you.
And it ain't no Ralph stuff. It ain't Ralph level. What's the name of your clothing line? We don't know. Exactly, and I can lose money on a higher level too. Don't think just because I got the most of the least money.
Let me finish my question, dog.
Man, no, man, you don't have the answers.
I'm asking you for the answer. It's a question. Why is it that you can't? You have money.
I just told you, I lost the money because I did not have the knowledge of how to do it the right way.
So you don't have the money to do it. That's your answer. You ain't got to turn up, man. This ain't no fucking show, man. Not that you as a homie.
No, it ain't no homie, man, because the thing is, the bottom line is,
man, everybody ain't got to turn up like you ain't got to hold up. You ain't
no hold up.
Listen, bro.
Ain't no hold up.
There got to be no hold up. I'm asking you a question.
Ain't no hold up.
I'm asking you a question.
Ain't no hold up.
What do you mean there ain't no hold up? You're talking as civilized people. I'm trying to understand your world because when I go to your concert, I'm curious about what you're saying. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you the question.
Well, I'm gonna explain to you what
Okay,
it
but
is.
you ain't got to turn up on me man to man, dog. Fuck these mics. You can turn all this shit off. You ain't got to do this. It's cool. I love you, bro. But you ain't got to turn them in. Don't try to embarrass us.
I'm not trying to embarrass y'all. What I'm trying to say to y'all is this industry of what I'm trying to get into, ain't nobody never broke down. Ain't nobody broke down. We all slaves. So I ain't trying to disrespect you on your show. We all slaves in
It's about
something.
my show, yeah.
I ain't trying to disrespect you, period. Let me talk if you're gonna have me talk. We all slaves. We all slaves. And y'all ain't experienced nothing right here but a moment from a movie out of glory. Back in the days, the slaves had enough money they could buy their own freedom. We all say we slaves to Nike, we slaves to Benz, we slaves to public perception, we slaves to not looking, you know what somebody gonna say after the interview. Why you let Kanye do that? You should have checked him.
I don't give a
I love you, man. I'm sorry. I love you, man. I'm sorry, okay?
That's fine.
But look at this. This is exactly what happened at the French Revolution. This is exactly what happened. I'm sure there's some arguments with Harriet Tubman and other people talking about, let's go this way, let's go that way. But what I'm trying to say is, I sat in Paris and met with these people. I invested my own money and lost money. I made t-shirts that made money. I made music that made money. But at the end of the day, Lucy and Grange still cut my music checks. As powerful as my voice is, Lucian still runs 50% of the music industry.
Thank you, Kanye. So also, Jay-Z talked about this. If you heard Jay-Z's album 444, and if you haven't heard it, I would encourage you to listen to it. It's a great project. He has a song called Moonlight when he talked about y'all niggas still signing deals for real. You know, Jay-Z has been one of those individuals that's been at the forefront of like owning what you create, right? When going back from when he had Rockefeller clothes, he had his own alcohol, you know, he has Ace of Spades champagne, to now ownership and title. And so he says, you know, he talks about, and they run off with their masters and took it to Beverly Hills while we in Calabasas. So he says, Lucian is cool, but Lucian don't write. So at the end of the day, like Lucian Grange doesn't have to write no music, no rap songs, no lyrics, don't have to participate in any beat, but he's making money off of the culture, right? So it says in the past 7 years, you know, under his leadership, their value tripled to $22 billion. So you talk about Universal Music Group being valued at $22 billion, understand that y'all know the number one genre of music, rap music, the number one media. Here's like more of a breakdown. So BET used to be black owned, but now BET is owned by Viacom, which also owns MTV, which also owns Paramount, right? Disney owns Marvel, they own Lucasfilms, the Star Wars, they own ABC. And so this is, and if we did the knowledge and said, who's running these companies, what you gonna find?
Rich old white.
Old rich white men. So when you're dealing with mainstream media, you're basically dealing with the world through the eyes of old rich white men. So what happens is, when you're other than that, oftentimes your story becomes not a three-dimensional story, but a one-dimensional story, right? It's like a one-dimensional, stereotypical story. So oftentimes the story that you see of black people is very one-dimensional. Of brown people is very one-dimensional. Of Asian people is very one-dimensional. Of LGBT folks, very one-dimensional. You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes it's very stereotypical because we're not the ones in control of that story. There's only one major media producer that's not on this list. Anybody know what it is? Netflix. Yeah, Netflix is the only one that's currently. So what happens is, when you have folks at the top making the deciding, you'll get like something like this. This is just like one of the worst examples. This was happened on the same day. So it was these two groups of people committed the same crime on the same day. And this media outlet decided to run one group's yearbook photos and another group's mugshots, right? Same day, same channel, same crime, same author. But he chose to portray the young white men very differently than he chose to portray the black men, right? Now, people saw this, people made the point, they ended up changing it after folks made the point, but it's oftentimes a bias that you see happen in the media. Or here's another one. Does anybody know what this is? It's Dylan Roof, right? So Dylan Roof, who walked into a church and killed 9 innocent black people who they minding their own, but they praying. They doing Bible study and praying. He walked in and killed 9 innocent black people, but you have, we forgive you, hate won't win, right? And then this guy, you know, and they said he raped and murdered this jogger. He's a woman-hating brute. So brute is a language used to really dehumanize a black person, right? You're not a human being, you're a brute, you're an animal, right? He's a demon in the weeds.
and then even showing, his victim. Now, if he did this crime, he should be dealt with and he should get justice. But just showing how he's portrayed as a woman-hating brute and a demon in the reeds, but Dylan Roof, we forgive you, and I don't forgive him. I'm not in that we. You know what I'm saying? Hate won't win. And we even see this when it comes to let me ask y'all a question. Do y'all remember, was it last year, the Las Vegas shooting? Yeah. Y'all remember who did that? What was the guy's name?
White guy.
What was the guy's name? Now, he killed 50 people. 50 people at a country music concert. Now, as a hip hop artist, we already know, even the idea of if that was a rap concert and 50 people, there would be no more rap in Las Vegas. There was one person shot in a T.I. concert at Irving Plaza, and they stopped rap there for a year. So, but his name was Stephen Paddock. This is how he was portrayed in the media, right? Friend of Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock describes him as a caring person who sought to make people happy, right? Investigators believe Las Vegas shooter has severe mental illness. That's one of the things we talk about white privilege. And sometimes when we talk about white privilege, white people get uncomfortable because they feel like, and sometimes they'll take it from just an economic perspective. And they'll say, I'm poor too, and I had to struggle as well. And there's a lot of poor white people in the United States of America. That is a fact, you know what I'm saying? But that's a small part of it. You don't have to take credit for Stephen Paddock, right? It's not like we're walking around remember Jeffrey Dahmer? That was a white person. We don't, if he's undocumented, now every undocumented person is held responsible for something one person did, right? And so now we have this rhetoric of we got to build a wall, even though all studies show that undocumented people commit crime at a much lower level than people born in the United States of America. So these are facts, right? If there's a terrorist attack and it's Muslim, and I consider myself Muslim, and sometimes stuff happens, and I be just praying quietly to myself, please don't be Muslim, please. Because now I have to take responsibility for that, and I gotta, Islam is a religion of peace. I gotta try to explain somebody I don't know, has nothing to do with, don't know what happened to. But now I'm responsible, and that's what happens. One black person does something at a school, and we're all somehow held accountable, but that doesn't happen when a white person does something. This was the Austin bomber. The Austin bomber suspect was quiet, nerdy young man from a tight-knit, godly family. This dude was randomly bombing people in Austin, Texas. Remember, we had to fight just to get them to call him a terrorist. Even though he was randomly bombing, well, not randomly, people said he was targeting people of color, right? But Trayvon had been suspended. This is the New York Times. And remember, it was the New York Times, I wish I had put it up there, on the day of Michael Brown's funeral, the New York Times did a profile of Michael Brown, and it started, Michael Brown, he's no angel. On the day of his funeral, but the Austin bomber, he was a tight-knit, godly, fearing family. That's oftentimes how the media portrays it. In Pittsburgh, we had a situation right outside of Pittsburgh. This young man, he was 17 years old. His name was Antoine Rose. He was shot in the back. Antoine Rose was running away from the police. According to witnesses, he had his hands in the air, and a police officer, Michael Rosefeld, shot him 3 times in the back. We know this because it's on videotape. A woman videotaped it. You saw Antoine running away. You saw this officer shooting 3 times in the back. KDKA, the news channel, put breaking news. KDKA has learned Antoine Rose firing a gun in a drive-by shooting just minutes before he was shot by East Pittsburgh police. Gunpowder residue was also reportedly found on his hands. This was 1,000% false. In an unprecedented move, the police department actually came out and held a press conference and said there is no video of Antoine Rose firing a gun, and we haven't even done a gunpowder residue test. But the media was quick. Who was Antoine Rose? He was a good student. Antoine Rose was in AP classes. Antoine Rose volunteered for his community. But that doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? If Antoine Rose was a monster, he was running away. He had his back to an officer. So when we found out about the officer that shot Antoine Rose, Michael Rosefeld, was he was on the police force for 3 hours. 3 hours. And the reason he was on this police force for 3 hours is because he had been fired from his previous police job at the University of Pittsburgh, and he was just hired. So the fact that he was fired, the fact that he had all of this negative stuff, that wasn't put in the media, but you tried to vilify a young boy who was dead that you know was shot in the back because you saw the videotape. And so we had, we launched a petition with Color of Change to make sure that the police officer was indicted on a homicide charge. But what Pennsylvania did was it broke its own constitution and they gave him an unsecured bond, meaning he didn't have to put any money up to go home. He walked out of court giving no bail on a homicide charge. It was the first time that happened in Pennsylvania history. And so the trial is March 19th, so say a prayer for his family and us, because we're hoping that we get justice in that case. And so, I can't show the video, I can't watch those videos anymore, you know what I'm saying? I mean, after, Oscar Grant and a few others, I just had to check out, you know what I'm saying? But if you want to go online and see it for yourself, it's online, but I'm not going to subject y'all to a 17-year-old being shot in the back by police. So one of the other ways we see this bias is in like commercials. So this is a commercial I want to share with y'all. Y'all tell me what y'all think.
Bust you out. A letter as read in the script.
What up, homie? It's whack that 5-0 bust you shifting bricks and defunky Buddha. I ain't just spitting, yo. Every day we be respecting the 40-on floor for our peeps in lockdown. But word up, me and my homie T-Bone, we got a hood snitch up in the pen. We gon' cut you loose like a noose, my dukes. And you be chinning the crib and knocking boots with some hood rats. Gotta bounce, dog. Respect, Big G.
Write it in your own voice. Write it with a Uniball pen.
A pen commercial, right? Write it in your own voice. So apparently my voice is somebody that's locked up, that's using all types, they didn't even get the slang right. Like, no black person was involved in even writing the script of the commercial, but that's kind of how we're portrayed. This is our voice, right? So, like what happens in social media, like what happened with Gucci and Prada, like what happened with H&M, it's like an apology. Oh, we didn't know, we're sorry, we didn't mean to be so racist in your face, please buy our products. You know how it goes, don't boycott us. This is a commercial that's a little bit more subtle. Let's see if y'all can see the hidden meaning behind this commercial. He slid the beer, like every black person in that bar, he just slid past all of them, like no black person, and then you see like the racially ambiguous woman, and then sometimes lighter is better, right? But this is something that you see often in kind of these commercials, like this idea that like lightness or whiteness is better, or it's cleaner. You got Dove before, the black woman is before, the white woman is after, you know what I'm saying? And to say like this is, and particularly in countries like India, Caribbean, Africa, that like whitening cream are big sellers, right? Latin America, the idea that like likeness is better. Like I want to be, whiter and to be more acceptable in society, that somehow like that's more beautiful or more accepting. So these are the subtle ways they promote those ideas, you know what I'm saying? And then in hip hop, sometimes it can look like this in hip hop, right? Like I said, this is New York City. This isn't LA. This is the West Coast. This is New York City, right? like this.
That's my word.
It's like the same video, right? It's like the same video over and over again.
Nigga. These niggas just running at they fucking mouth, man. Follow protocol, blood. Get in they fucking chest, nigga.
All right, I'm gonna pause right there. And then also to understand that, like, number one, like, to watch this video, you got, the first thing you gotta know, well, it's not the first thing you gotta know, but the guns in the video are not real. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that as a hater. I'm not saying that up here is like, oh, you ain't making money like 6 times. No, I'm saying that because you're not allowed to have a gun in New York. It's against the law to own a gun in New York City. If you remember, Lil Wayne got a year at Rikers Island for having a gun on his bus. He didn't even have the gun in his possession. They actually went and did a DNA test on the gun, found his DNA on the gun, and gave him a year. So you're not gonna be in public with all these people and all these cameras and police in the video and having real guns. So understand, like, this is all kind of this idea. And then what blew my mind is, I was somebody that when I saw like the meteoric rise, it's hard to believe that 6ix9ine's only been out for like a year. Like he was out, he like was super hot, and now he's in the feds, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not somebody that wants that for somebody, you know what I'm saying? I would rather him be and take care of his family. I don't want to see this brother sent to prison. But what's interesting about, like, I thought he had an organic rise. I thought it was like had this independent movement. It was his use of social media. But one of the things I found out was 6ix9ine was actually on a record label. Anybody know what his record label is called? 6ix9ine's record label. Anybody know what it's called? No, not Treyway. See, that's the game, right? We're gonna put Shotty in the video because Shotty's an actual gang member that actually has stripes, right? So Shotty's gonna be the face. He's Treyway, you know what I'm saying? Which represents the non-Trey Bloods in New York City. The idea, like 6ix9ine. Oh, I made that up. Oh no, you didn't, bro. It was non-Trey Bloods before you came here. But he was on a label. His label was called 10,000K. And the interesting thing about the owner of his label is his name was Elliot Grange. Does that sound familiar? Elliot Grange is the son of Universal Music Group chairman Lucian Grange. Now we start to connect the dots, right? To say that, like, it wasn't that 6ix9ine actually not only had help, he had a lot of help because his record owner is connected to the most powerful man in rap music. And so when you see somebody all of a sudden have access to all of these major platforms and getting all of this run, and I'm thinking like, oh, it's organic, oh, it's because of this, oh, it's because of that. It's actually orchestrated. Then you start to wonder why he was pushed so hard. What was it about him and what he represented that was pushed so hard? Has anybody heard from Elliot Grange about 6ix9ine being arrested? No. Did anybody hear from Elliot Grange about 6ix9ine being connected to all these shootings and the people that got hurt? Did Elliot Grange make a statement when 6ix9ine was robbed? Has 6ix9ine made a statement, has Elliot Grange made a statement now that 6ix9ine is cooperating with the feds? No. Why don't we hear from him? Why does he get to hide his hand and slide off and work with another rapper? Did Trippie Redd and 6ix9ine have real beef, or were they beefing to bring more attention to both artists and the label that's getting paid off both of them? What happens if 6ix9ine and Trippie Redd have real issues with one another? If somebody gets hurt, my man getting paid regardless. This is the game, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Same thing happened with Bobby Shmurda. Y'all remember Bobby Shmurda? Yeah. You remember Hot Nigga and the little Shmurda dance? You know what I'm saying? He threw his hat up. And so to understand that, like, 6ix9ine got charged with conspiracy, right? They didn't charge 6ix9ine by himself. They charged him with a group. They charged the whole 9 Trey Bloods. Bobby Shmurda got charged with conspiracy. They didn't just charge Bobby Shmurda. They charged the whole GS9 Crips. And Bobby Shmurda, went to prison with his crew. Same thing that happened when Bobby Shmurda had Hot Nigga, and it was the #1 song in 2014. The record label was cool. When Bobby Shmurda got locked up, what happened? He got dropped. You know what I'm saying? Now, Bobby Shmurda, did cooperate. It'll be interesting to see what happens when we come home. And then, we also kind of saw this recently with 21 Savage, right? Now, they said 21 Savage just got out on bond. But what's most interesting about the story of 21 Savage, I know people have fun with the jokes and the memes, you know what I'm saying? But this is a very real story, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, he was brought over here by his mom. His mom is undocumented. His mom is looking for more opportunities. His mom finds a place in a community where she can make a living, and she's not going to go back to the community that she came from where she can't make a living. So she stays there. The visa runs out. But what's interesting, 21 Savage was arrested for a felony in 2014. Before he was 21 Savage, the rapper, why wasn't he deported then? But now, when he is actually making music, speaking out on issues, making good music, he actually just was on Jimmy Fallon talking about immigration. He filed for a visa in 2017. You knew what his status was. He just puts an album out. He's going on tour on this album, making money. He's doing things good in Atlanta. Why would you arrest him now? And so shout out to Jay-Z, who put up the money and the campaign to free. And we saw the same thing happen with Meek Mill, right? Meek Mill has been on parole for 10 years. Meek Mill is not a threat to anybody because he's a rapper. He's actually doing positive things in the city of Philadelphia. So he popped a willie. Okay, cool. Like, does that mean he should go back to prison for a year? This is how we get caught up as people of color. And also understand that, you know, it happened right here in San Diego, right? And this blew my mind when I came here and found out about the story. And Tiny Dude and Aaron Harvey, the fact that it says Duncan and Harvey were among 15 alleged gang members arrested and connected with 9 shootings in 2013, 2014. There was no evidence that either man committed the actual shootings. Let me say that again. No evidence. Instead, the evidence used against them included rap lyrics and social media postings that the prosecutors argued promoted gang violence. So we up on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram or whatever we at, Snapchat, thinking nobody's watching, thinking nobody, but a lot of what's happening now in terms of how they're making cases, they're looking at Facebook. They knew Aaron Harvey wasn't even living in San Diego at the time of the shootings, yet he almost took a plea of 17 years in prison. And the reason he almost took a plea for 7 years for a crime he didn't commit because they said, you're gonna be in a box with 15 other black dudes that look just like you and with a jury from San Diego, how you think they're gonna vote? What you think they're gonna do? And this is kind of what happens when those images and those stereotypes are propagated, you know, it leads to that. Or in Mississippi, they have a gang law that they passed in 2010. When Mississippi passed this gang law, over 50%, more than 50% of the gangs in Mississippi are white. However, since the law passed in 2010, only black people have been prosecuted under this gang law in Mississippi. This is how the law works. Like, once again, when we talk about white privilege, you know, I'm cool. Blackface, you want to put it on, you want to say the N-word. That, not putting on blackface and not saying the N-word doesn't prove like you're not racist. And really, that's not even our issues. Our issues is a system. It's systematic racism that every day harms people. So statistics say that if you're black, you get a harsher sentence, you get a longer sentence. It's harder for us to get houses, it's harder for us to get loans. I mean, this is just the reality of being black and brown in America. And also, too, you know, for folks that say, oh, well, you know, people like that type of music because, you know, people like sex and violence, and I get it. We like sex and violence. I like it too, you know what I'm saying? I was born here, raised here, you know what I'm saying? But they actually did a study in the University of California that said that actually socially conscious music is more popular. Socially conscious music is always sold. When you go from Kendrick and Cole right now, you can go back to Lauryn Hill and the Fugees, who sold 10 million records. You go back to Public Enemy, you know what I'm saying? Conscious music has always sold. It's not about whether conscious music is sold or not, it's whether it's promoted and pushed. That's the question. Anybody know what this is? Who's this? Anybody know what this is? This is Adam Lanza. Adam Lanza did the Sandy Hook shooting. Adam Lanza killed 31 people. Out of the 31 people Adam Lanza killed, 20 were children. right? And we don't even know what he looks like, and we don't even know his name. I will argue, can y'all agree with me, that Trayvon Martin was criminalized more in the media than a guy who killed 31 people. How many people did Trayvon kill? No. 0, right? They was like, well, Trayvon smoked marijuana. I was like, well, so did the last 3 presidents. Admittedly. Lord knows what Trump is doing, you know what I mean? So when Trayvon was killed, I was at a music and film festival in Austin, Texas called South by Southwest. And, you know, understanding that they're going to try to paint this false narrative of this brother, which is what they did. And so I put a song and video together at that time called Trayvon. I want to share it with y'all.
George Zimmerman didn't take his Ritalin, drunk off adrenaline since he's making the citizens arrest. Trayvon looks at him vexed. I just walked to the store, nothing more, nothing less. Just steps from his home, he ignores his request. George grabs him, Trayvon swings and connects, starts screaming out for help, but Zimmerman sees a threat, so he pulls out his gun and he points it at his chest. He fires, but he misses. Trayvon pleads for forgiveness. I didn't do nothing, this is senseless. But George Zimmerman was so vicious, he made sure the second shot hit him. No survivor, no witness. Trayvon never gave his cousins his skills. Mr. All-Star Game didn't see another dribble, and George Zimmerman wasn't even arrested. The message is only white life is protected in America.
Yeah. Thank you. So this was at the time, remember George Zimmerman wasn't even arrested at this point. So this was actually one of the first videos I'd ever done where I actually did it in partnership with an organization called Color Change, where we actually had a petition. In the video, we were telling people like, hey, can you sign this petition that we could just get George Zimmerman arrested? So it took really a nationwide effort and protest just to get him arrested. Now, the biggest pushback I got from the song was at the last line when I said only white life is protected in America. And what people would say to me was like, well, Jasiri, like, why would you say that? Like George Zimmerman was Latino. And I always have to tell people like that line didn't have anything to do with George Zimmerman being Latino. It had everything to do with Trayvon Martin being black. I honestly believe if George Zimmerman shot a little white boy, he would be Jorge Zimmerman, Latino murderer. You know what I'm saying? I mean, be honest, you know what I'm saying? But because George Zimmerman killed a young black boy, he was given that privilege, right? He wasn't drug tested or alcohol tested at the scene. He wasn't checked, they didn't check his background. He actually had a criminal background, and he was given his gun back and sent on his way. And I think people really didn't understand what I meant by that line until he was found not guilty for Trayvon's murder and has gone on to commit more crimes. But this is kind of what we began to do in Pittsburgh, which is tell our own stories. So in 2010, they did a study in Pittsburgh about how the media in Pittsburgh portrays black men specifically. What they found was 90% of the time the media portrays black men in Pittsburgh. What y'all think the subject is? Guns, drugs, right? Crime, right? 90% of the time is crime, right? When it comes to quality of life stories, it's less than 3%. So like, folks are actually being programmed to see me as a criminal, right? If you're somebody that don't interact with no black people, every time you see me in the news, I'm a criminal. Every time you see me in a movie and video, I'm talking about crime or doing crime. Then you see me, I come walking down the street, I'm dressed like this, now you scared now. Or don't let it be like 5 of us. And we all got on hoodies. Now all of a sudden you're thinking we a gang and we gonna rob somebody, we gonna start some trouble, and we just walk into the store doing whatever it is we do, right? So we basically went to the Heinz Endowment that did the study and said, hey, we wanna teach young black men how to analyze media. One, most of the media that's directed towards us, like we just showed, we don't own. We don't own the media, somebody else owns it, and so what happens is somebody else telling our own story, and then we wanted to give young black men specifically the power and agency to tell their own stories, you know what I'm saying? And which is why we started One Hood Media. This guy in the middle, kneeling down with the beard, for folks that are familiar with old school hip hop, he was part of a rap group in the late 80s, early 90s called X-Clan. His name is Paradise. Also, if you watch Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix, he just did an interview. He also ran a club called the Latin Quarter. They just did a book at. And so, you know, we had a young woman come through One Hood. Her name was Patience. She's in the middle throwing the deuces up. Patience said, hey, I don't care if One Hood is all men. I want to be a part of it. I like what y'all are doing. And so we kind of went back to our fundings and said, hey, can we open it up to young women of color as well? So this is kind of more so was representative of One Hood right now. This was our 10th anniversary photo shoot that we did in 2016. That's my son in the middle on the train tracks, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Nigel. And so basically we became a collective of media makers, right? Bloggers, videographers, photographers, singers, dancers, hip hop artists, you know what I'm saying? Basically using our talents and gifts to tell our own stories. Last year, actually in 2017, I got a fellowship from a foundation called the Nathan Cummings Foundation to launch what we call the Activism Academy. So I'm an artist that's always talked about race because of my story. I'm originally from the south side of Chicago. At age 14, my mother was like, we're moving, you know, because of the neighborhood. I was in a neighborhood in Chicago they called the Wild Hundreds. And my neighborhood was, what you say? Chi-Town. Okay, you already know what it is, right? So you know. I was in Roseland, right? Mom was like, we gotta get out of here. You know, my pops was in the game, my pops was in the Black Songs. And so my mother didn't want that life for me, so she moved us from the south side of Chicago to a suburb of Pittsburgh called Monroeville. So I went from a 100% black environment to almost a 100% white environment. And I got a cold glass of racism right to the face, you know what I'm saying? And so like, that was something for me that kind of like woke me up, but also made me want to talk about the subject of race, because I always feel like it's this elephant in the room. So a lot of my music dealt with race, but then people really didn't take me seriously until 2016, right? And Donald Trump got elected, and they was like, Jasiri, what are we supposed to do now? So I said, well, we need to give support to artists that are using their art specifically for issues of social justice. And so in 2017, we launched the One Hood Activism Academy. One of the issues that we had come up in in Pittsburgh was, this is an art installation, In Pittsburgh, my neighborhood is a neighborhood called East Liberty. My neighborhood in Pittsburgh is being heavily gentrified, you know what I'm saying? Google moved into my neighborhood, and then all hell broke loose, you know what I'm saying? They tore the projects down, they put a Target up, it's real right now. So there's an art installation in this neighborhood on top of this building, and a black woman artist named Alicia Wormsley. Every month, artists would just put different sayings. Her art is around black people in science fiction, so she put, there are black people in the future. The owner of the building called the guy who does the installation and said, you have to take that down, that's racist. It says there are, right, how is that racist? But it's similar to like Black Lives Matter. And so like sometimes when folks hear Black Lives Matter, they like subconsciously put either a only at the front or more at the end. Like, if all lives matter, then don't Black Lives Matter? Like, we at the school, this is mathematics. So if I say Black Lives Matter, you don't have to say all lives matter. Because if you truly believe that, then you wouldn't have a problem with black lives. But then if you look at that and you don't see yourself in it, and you feel because you're not in it that somehow it's an attack on you, that's really your problem. Like, you got some psychological stuff, you know what I'm saying? So if you see there are black people in the future, and because it didn't say there are all people in the future, now you got a problem with it, like, that's not racist. And so, you know, we organized. She actually has a yard sign. So this is my yard right now. I put one in my yard. So when you roll up on my block, I'm letting you know, oh, we gonna be here. I know it's being gentrified, but guess what? I own my house, and I ain't going nowhere. There's gonna be some black people on this block, you know what I'm saying? Just letting you know. But also, one of our artists did a song talking about the gentrification. His name is Jordan Montgomery. Actually, today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Jordan. I want to share that song. Shout out to Jordan Montgomery. You know, we had talked a little bit. Yeah, you're clapping up there. I talked about Antoine Rose, and while we were organizing around Antoine Rose, this is one of our artists, Brittany Chantel. That was the call, was 3 shots in the back, how you justify that. But one of our artists, live from the city, just got on his computer and did a joint, you know what I'm saying, justice for Antoine. This was his song.
For Antoine, let's get it. One hood in the building. Yeah, man. You know what time it is. Shout out to Nas, let's get it. Represent. Just brothers, let's get it. We gotta stand strong. Do it for Antoine, because of runs from the concrete never last long. No more hashtags, no more sad songs. Time for action. This is Babylon. Let your light shine in times of darkness. We united through these hardships. In these comments, racist all shit. So-called white allies, unresponsive. Can't you see? No stopping nothing to silence us. That's why they at the protest with ARs and silencers. Law enforcement, raise the crime rate. Then get a pension. I guess crime pays. Michael Roosevelt needs indicted. We saw the video. You can't hide it. We've decided to take over all the street corners. And may Allah bless us because police got us under pressure. Represent. Let's go. What?
Shout out live from the city, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, a lot of people know me as a political rapper because of this current political scene. You know, the last song I put out was a song called The Whitest House that I will share with you all right now.
If you own a business that attempts to keep black people from renting from you, if you are reported to say that you don't want black people counting your money, if you say someone can't judge your case because they're Mexican, if your response to the first black president is that they weren't born in this country, if that's the essence of your entire political identity, you might be a white supremacist.
Welcome to the White House. Slave souls from the halls when the light is out. They suck the blood of the poor and the white they mouth. The last gas of a world that is dying out. Welcome to the White House, where every room is a tomb that they lie about. Where you can put your filthy feet on the finest couch, and for the right amount, you can even buy it out.
White power, white pride, white privilege, Whites maintain all their rights when whites pillage. White lies, white tears, and white feelings. White supremacy in the White House, the whitest building, ironically in a place they call Chocolate City. Now all you see is a vanilla sky. That shit'll kill your vibe. Then turn on the news for the realest lies. Damn, that shit is sadder than when children cry. 45 make them wanna grab a 45. Nazis, what is this, 1945? Progressive white, so horrified. Black people, like we tried to tell y'all, you ignored the signs. Trudeau, I need a visa, please order mine. Or my Chicago peeps can sneak me through the borderline. That slogan on that red hat was so popular. Who knew it meant marching with torches and waving swastikas? Hey, welcome to the White House. Slave souls haunt the halls when the light is out. They suck the blood of the poor and don't wipe their mouth. The last gas of a world that is dying out. Welcome to the White House, where every room is a tomb that they lie about. Where you can put your filthy feet on the finest couch, and for the right amount, you can even buy. So when the anthem plays, I'ma sit next to Colin Kaepernick and Marshawn Lynch. Shout out to all my Africans, descendants of those victims of slave trafficking. The men that captured them, they built statues, the champion. And what religion were they practicing? Burning crosses in the Oval Office, while Omarosa and Ben Carson defend racists in the same place Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. White minds with black faces, a nation indoctrinated in hatred in need of an operation. Approval rating less than 1/3 of the population who took off their hoods so the identity's not mistaken. America's greatness, we not debating. Her history of murder and raping, we not erasing. Kill Mexicans, kill blacks, and kill natives, cause a real American can only be Caucasian. Welcome to the White House. Slave souls haunt the halls when the light is out. They suck the blood of the poor and don't wipe their mouth. The last gas of a world that is dying out. Welcome to the White House, where every room is a tomb that they lie about. Where you can put your filthy feet on the finest couch, and for the right amount, you can even buy it out. Yeah. So yes, you know, I believe like Nina Simone, the artist's duty as far as I'm concerned is to reflect the times, you know what I'm saying? You know, and I would encourage you to do the same. I would encourage you to use your time, you know, whether you're here in school, whether you're in high school, to really begin to look at, you know, how you can give back and help your community, you know what I'm saying, and do something to really represent here in this current time. And this is all of my contact information and stuff, so you know, you can follow me online. I have some cards. I don't know if people still buy CDs. If you buy CDs, I got a CD if you want to buy one. But you can get my stuff online. I'm on Bandcamp, or you can search me on Spotify. I'm on all the little major media stuff. I don't know if anybody had any questions. I don't know if we have time for questions, or somebody had a question. Got a few minutes. Anybody got a question? I can't really see that far, so if you got your hand up, I might not be able to see. Okay. Yes.
How do you become an advocate in your city? Like, do you think that you have to be an artist to be an advocate?
100% not. She said, how do you become an advocate in your city? You absolutely do not. I think what I would ask is like, what do you love to do? I do my advocacy and my activism through what I love. And so mine is through hip hop, because hip hop is what I love. And I feel like this is what has allowed me to be an activist for so long, because I'm doing it through what I love, you know what I'm saying? So I would say, and that's kind of, you know, for those that's interested in getting involved, you know, sometimes people think like all activism is like going to a rally and getting arrested. Everybody can't get arrested, because then who's gonna bail us out of jail, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, a friend of mine, she's a lawyer, her name's Purpy Shaw. She started Lawyers for Black Lives. Like, we need lawyers when we get arrested, you know what I'm saying? And so I would say, like, what do you love to do, what are you currently doing, and try to do activism through what you love. And really, to me, it's even as simple as, like, do you have a mentee? Like, do you have somebody that you're mentoring? Do you have somebody that you're like letting know, like, these are some of the things that we went through, particularly those that are in college? Like, are you reaching back to your high school and preparing kind of the next generation to follow those paths? Those are some really simple things. And then if you're on social media, I would say, like, use your social media to, you know, let people know about stories that are really meaningful. what's happening in your city. Sometimes things happen in your city and folks don't even know. And so you can also use that to share, this is what's happening in our city. We're about to do a couple of campaigns directly involving Pittsburgh and what's happening directly in our community. So you can use, the online resources we have to also kind of get the word out. So that would be my advice. Thank you for asking that question and wanting to get involved. Can we give her a round of applause? Any other questions? Comments? I see your hand, yes.
All right. So I'm a second-year criminal justice major.
Yes.
I do have an intention to become a cop, and I do have high morals. So I have already talked to a lot of my professors, and I get the question all the time, especially from my mom. She's like, why would you ever want to be a cop? You see what they do to people of color so often. Yeah. But for me, I want to be better than what they say, because not every cop has the same morals or what they do in the media.
Absolutely.
Of course, you get more of the negative stereotype of everyone has that target on your back.
True.
Especially a cop, especially someone like me who wants to be a cop.
Right.
And the way I put it, and I told this to my first criminal justice major professor, I was like, I want to do more for my community. With the influence that I have as a cop, I could probably put more of a, look, I want to be your mentor. Yeah. I can show you what you need to do.
So I would just say, one, I believe in an inside-outside approach. I don't think that it's one way to do something. So yeah, we push on the outside, but we do need people on the inside. Ironically, the dude that got me, my best friend in high school, who's the reason I rap, he's a police officer right now, you know what I'm saying? He came to me I'm joining the police academy, I want to let you know, you'll have a friend. I'm like, cool, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not judge anybody that want to be, but to also understand you're going into a system. You're same if somebody said they joined the army, and sometimes folks will join the army for specifically economic reasons. I get it. You know what I'm saying? But that you should do the history of the system that you're being involved in. You know what I'm saying? Pittsburgh is FOP Lodge #1. FOP is the Fraternal Order of Police, the police union. And most of the times when we try to do police reforms, our issues are with the union. The union actually prevents those reforms. In Pittsburgh, we had a white police chief. He was trying to reform the police department. He actually held a sign up during the protest that said white silence is violence. And he spoke at the Democratic National Convention. All the police in Pittsburgh was with Trump. And they sued him. And basically he had to leave, I joke with people and say Pittsburgh police was too racist for the white police chief, you know what I'm saying? So to just understand that you're also part of a system, and to understand that system upholds certain things. And one of the things, is racial profiling. All studies show blacks and whites use drugs at the same rate. Some studies show white people use drugs more, buy and use drugs. But when you direct your policing just at black and brown communities, this is why we fill the prisons, you see? We don't see that same policing and profiling in white communities. Ain't nobody going to the University of San Diego, where there's probably a lot of drug use. You see? And so these are the type of things that I see. So I don't doubt your heart, and I don't doubt you're somebody that really wants to make a change, and I applaud you for doing that. But I would say to do the research on the institution that you're going to be. That's where if you get a job with Goldman Sachs, do the knowledge on what you're getting into and the corporation that you're a part of and their history. And so I would say do that same thing, and then be patient with yourself through that process, because these departments are entrenched in a certain thinking and behavior. And so even going up in there and wanting to make a change can be dangerous, and you'll need the community behind you and backing you. And so, I don't begrudge anybody that wants to do that. I would just say, do that knowledge, make sure you have your people with you, and be careful and be safe. But I thank you for your spirit of wanting to help our community as well. Anybody else? Questions coming? Oh, somebody in the back? Yes.
I just wanted to know how long you're going to be in San Diego for. How else would I find you?
Wow. Oh, so I'm leaving right after this. Yeah, I was at Grossmont on Monday, and I was at, is it Cuyamaca? Did I say that? Sri Lanka yesterday, and this is my last stop. But I mean, you can find me here, JasiriX.com. I have cards that have my information on. If you want to like get a card and follow me or connect with me, you know, get me on social media. I guess, is it time to go? No. Y'all's like, we out, man. I don't got no question. The question is back. Anybody else? Thank y'all for coming. Y'all that's leaving, I appreciate y'all. Somebody right here? Oh wait, hold up. We got a question. Yes.
What do you think about like black people being like conservative?
Black people being what? I mean, I have black friends that are conservatives, you know what I'm saying? Most black people are conservative by definition, you know what I'm saying? Because most black people come out of the church. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like when it comes to issues like, you know, homosexuality, most black people are conservative. When it comes to, you know, marriage, all that type of stuff, most blacks are conservative. I think like now, and you know, I got a friend of mine that I got two friends that are Republicans. Now they don't support Donald Trump, but they consider themselves Republicans. Now, if you're black and support Donald Trump, I got questions. If you're brown and support Donald Trump, I got questions. If you Muslim and support Donald Trump, I got questions. If you white and support Donald Trump, I got some questions. I want to know, you know what I'm saying? And when I say I got questions, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm somebody that, you know, I'm financially well. I understand, like, you get into a certain tax bracket, you want less tax. I get that. But there's a point, you know, in Pittsburgh, we just had the largest massacre of Jewish people in the history of the United States. You know, there's somebody that is kind of hyped up on this white nationalism. You know what I'm saying? This idea that like somehow white people are losing the country. And he targeted this synagogue because they support help refugees that come into our country. So I've witnessed the danger of this type of rhetoric, you know what I'm saying? And I, you know, had a conversation with a Jewish man who said, yo, I voted for Trump, like I feel I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because look at what this type of rhetoric can do in our country. And so that's to me the issue, you know what I'm saying? It's like, a rhetoric that begins to divide us in a way, and then you can also just argue this is how I define like white privilege, like George W. Bush, C student at Yale, you know, alcohol and drug issues. This is documented, this isn't me making it up. John McCain was a D student in the Naval Academy, graduated third to last in his class. Barack Obama had to be a perfect black, he was a constitutional lawyer at Harvard. This dude, he had to be perfect. Michelle had to be perfect, also a Harvard graduate. Family had to be perfect, like just for him to get, and then look at Donald Trump. This is how oftentimes as black and brown people, we have to move through this country. You know, my mother was a nuclear engineer, and you know, two things she would always tell me is you have to work twice as hard to get the same thing, and that life's not fair. So that's the reality that we move through the world as black and brown folk, you know what I'm saying? And so it's unfortunate, but that's the reality. So yeah, I would have some questions for my conservative, really more so Trump supporting black people. Thank you. Is that, she's coming to take the mic.
So give it up for Jasiri X. Bottom of our heart, from Yamoja, from City College, we wanted to say thank you so much for coming out and giving us this presentation. It was wonderful. It was everything we needed at this time. Thank you so much, and for the token of our appreciation.
To introduce right now, we have the president of San Diego City College, Dr. Ricky Shabazz, to come up and say a few words. And after his address, all of the students from the high school, if you just please stay in the room and everyone else can be dismissed.
Just wanted to just welcome everyone to City College. Let's give it up again for Jasiri X. Now what you need from kids and people just now.